Hello and welcome to another edition of We Stream, the official reaction channel of epic rap battles of history. If you are new to the channel, I am a musician and I make my own content that you should check out.
And as I'm growing older, on my birthday there's no call, and if I try to call her, I get no response at all.
Also, thanks to your guys' support, if you haven't noticed, my area has been upgraded. It was my birthday this week and I decided everything from my birthday was going to go into giving you guys more great content, giving me a little more space to move around. So, and then better sound stuff, little mask display. We're moving up in the world, people. Yeah! So thank you so much for all the support. If you are someone who watches my videos and doesn't support me, fuck you! And by support, I mean just, subscribe, like, comment, and shit. You don't have to buy anything. You can. Like, you could get sweet merch like this shirt, or you can get stickers, like what's on my headphones if you join Patreon. You can get exclusive videos on this channel if you become a member, and you can get those on Patreon too. So you can support me financially, I ain't gonna be mad at you. But if you watch my videos and you don't bother to subscribe or comment and like for the algorithm, well then fuck you! And that's the plug. So, we're gonna watch a classic epic rap battle of history today. Steve Jobs versus Bill Gates. This is gonna be a breakdown rather than a reaction. It has been a couple of years since I've seen this rap, but I know this rap very, very well because it's amazing. It's one of epic rap battles of history's best. Let's get into it.
Let me just step right in. I got things to advance.
I love the start of this. Also, if you're new to the channel, we pause a lot. Get your pause merch today, kids. Steve Jobs is coming straight in. He's like, let me just bump right in, because he was always impatient, trying to get things started. No time for any crap. So even on this rap, he's like, I'm just gonna step in. Don't even finish the introductions.
Let me just step right in. I got things to advance. I'm an innovator, baby, change the world.
Just the dad gene little.
Fortune 500 before you kiss the girl.
All right, we're gonna let a couple bars play through, and then we'll talk about them.
Step right in. I got things to advance. I'm an innovator, baby, change the world. Fortune 500 before you kiss the girl. I'm a pimp, you're a nerd. I'm slick, you're cheesy. Beating you is apple too easy.
Okay, so let's talk about these things, kids. All right, Fortune 500 before you kissed a girl. Apple was a Fortune 500 company in like their first 5 years or so, I think. It was very quick. And before you kissed a girl, I don't know, Bill Gates would have been in his late 20s, early 30s when Apple was a Fortune 500 company. So had he not kissed a girl yet? Who knows? Because maybe not, because according to Steve Jobs,
before you kissed a girl, I'm a pimp.
Steve Jobs is a pimp and Bill Gates is a nerd. About the only pimpish thing that Steve Jobs ever did was have an illegitimate child, but you know.
You're a nerd, I'm slick, you're cheesy.
He's slick, you're cheesy. I mean, you could say that about certain Apple and Microsoft products, right?
Beating you is apple too easy.
Beating you is apple too easy. Apple II was one of the first major Macintosh Apple brand computers that took off. It was one of the most common home computers. That was back in the day, kids. That Apple's marketing tactic, by the way, was that they made simple and affordable. Affordable! Oh, how times have changed.
I make the product that the artist chooses, and the GUI that Melinda uses. I need to bring up some basic shit. Why'd you name your company after your dick?
All right, let's go back. All right, so
Cheesy, beating you is
Apple too easy. We talked about. And then
apple too easy. I make the product that the artist chooses.
He makes the product that the artist chooses. That's most people who are doing like music or video or whatever use Mac. I use an iPad for a lot of my video editing. I use a PC for my music editing. I don't like Mac interface on the desktop. So it's preference, but most artists are going to use a Mac. Also, artist chooses, you could tie that to like an iTunes thing because that was like the first digital music platform and the music artist chose it. So
uses, and the GUI that
The GUI that Melinda uses. GUI is just a word for like the graphic user interface. So like, what does your computer look like? What I was just talking about, how like a desktop version of Mac versus a PC that's running Microsoft or Windows, or Linux or what have you, or your phone. The interface is the GUI, GUI. And he says that Melinda is the name of Bill Gates' wife. So he's saying even your wife uses my crap, or that could be a sex thing if you want to take it as a sex thing. You perverts!
Melinda uses. I need to bring up some basic shit.
He needs to bring up some basic shit. Basic could also be a coding joke for all you coding nerds out there. I won't go into it.
Why'd you name your company after your dick?
One of my favorite ERB dick jokes. Why'd you name your company after your dick? Micro? Soft? You get it? A micro penis that's always soft? Ah! I don't know what that was, but it's a good dick joke. And we're about to get a dick sucking joke, because you know that Epic Lloyd loves dick sucking jokes.
GUI that Melinda uses. I need to bring up some basic shit. Why'd you name your company after your dick?
Blowjobs, you arrogant prick, with your second-hand jeans and your turtleneck. I'll drill a hole in the middle of your bony head with your own little spin of beach ball of death.
I love the flows of this one. It just, everything sounds so wonderful, so well produced. Let's listen to what Epic Lloyd said. So, we started simply with the blowjob joke. You blow jobs, you tell someone they blow, and then Steve Jobs, blowjobs, you get it.
Basic shit. Why'd you name your company after your dick?
Blowjobs, you arrogant prick, with your second-hand jeans and your turtleneck.
Arrogant prick. That's a good way to describe Steve Jobs. Everyone said he was an arrogant prick. Simple enough. And then your second-hand jeans and your turtlenecks. I was talking about the mom jeans earlier. He always wore. His style made Bill Gates look stylish, and that's problematic. But a lot of inventor types or those whatever types like to wear the same thing every day, like they're a fucking cartoon character. I guess it's because they want their creativity to not be spent on picking out an outfit. That's some stupid shit right there. Just hire someone to dress for you then. Like, damn.
I'll drill a hole in the middle of your bony head.
Drill a hole in the middle of your bony head is a skinny joke. Steve Jobs is skinny, and he got skinnier and skinnier as he withered away and literally died!
With your own little spin of beach ball of death.
Spinning beach ball of death. That's what he's going to use to drill a hole in your head. Because, if you get that little beach ball on a Mac, a lot of the times it means whatever's trying to load is never going to load. It's over for you.
Hippie, you got given up at birth. I give away your net worth to AIDS research.
Got given up at birth, give away your net worth to AIDS research. So, Steve Jobs was given up at birth. That's just a fact. And gave away your net worth to AIDS research. Bill Gates has given away billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars to philanthropic charity work. And I think Steve Jobs' net worth was less than $10 billion when he died. So that's just a factual statement.
Combine all your little toys and I still crush that. iPhone, iPad, iPhone, I smack.
And he's just saying all of the little gadgets that Apple has made still won't make the money that the software that Microsoft has made, which is reigned true because Microsoft stuck to cheap-ass shit you could reproduce in corporate America, and that sells more in the large scheme of things than Apple products. Apple has caught up and surpassed Microsoft eventually. I don't think they had when this battle came out. And that's just because Apple keeps increasing its profit margins and charging more money for less product year over year. And people just keep buying it because they established a brand. There you go.
A man uses the machines you build to sit down and pay his taxes.
Now they're doing the old I'm a Mac, I'm a PC commercial with the white background.
A man uses the machines I build to listen to the Beatles while he relaxes.
I've always thought that line was a terrible diss, because for me, that seemed more of a diss on Apple than on Microsoft. Because he basically said, someone uses your computer to do something worthwhile. Someone uses my computer to do something not worthwhile. Just like be a lazy sack of shit that doesn't contribute to society. But I guess you look at people who are Apple fanboys, not Apple users, Apple fanboys, and I mean, I guess they would be proud to be useless sack of shits supporting universal income and Bernie Sanders and all the things that very, very narrow-minded, unintelligent people support.
Well, Steve, you steal all the credit for work that other people do. Did your fat beard Wozniak write these raps for you too?
And that's a perfect retort to that is, speaking of people with dumb mindsets who want to take credit for everything and blah, 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 Steve Wozniak is really the true brains behind a lot of what propelled Apple to where it was, and Steve Jobs just took credit for it. I mean, it is what it is. That's just facts. Not saying Steve Jobs wasn't brilliant in his own way, just as an inventor, not so much. He was brilliant about marketing and work ethic and motivating and inspiring, but when it came to actually developing the tech that would make all of those feelings work, that's what Steve Wozniak was for.
Ooh, everybody knows Windows bit off Apple.
I triple the profits on a PC.
Windows bit off Apple, you got the bite mark of the logo of Apple, which is hotly debated where that comes from. Point is, Microsoft in the early years was accused of ripping a lot of the GUI that Apple had for their own GUI with the mouse and all that crap in it. Ended up being settled outside of court because the courts kept dropping it because at the time they had a close enough business relationship that it was kind of hard to sue a company that you were working with so closely for stealing an idea that you both kind of had when you were together. But you know, Apple is very lawsuit happy. They always have been, probably always will be, and most of the time their lawsuits get thrown out because they're baseless, and they think that everyone copies them because they make very generic ideas that people recreate. And they're like, oh, that generic idea is mine. I mean, they've tried to fucking say that if a cell phone had a home button, it was infringing on a patent. Like, are you kidding me right now? But that's how Apple's always been. So, you know.
For you too?
Ooh, everybody knows Windows bit off Apple.
I triple the profits on a PC.
Triple the profits on a PC, and that's really because Microsoft doesn't have to pay for the hardware. They just put the software and someone else pays for the hardware. So yeah, you're going to have a much bigger profit margin at that point.
See, all the people with the...
Except when you talk about the new Microsoft like Surface and stuff where the hardware and the software is Microsoft, and that stuff is sometimes good, sometimes
power to create using Apple.
And people with jobs use PC.
Also kind of true. A lot of the people who are unemployed or visionaries use Apple products or college students. And then people who are actually doing shit use PCs. I use both depending on what I'm doing. But that's probably because sometimes I'm just doing crap like this and other times I'm doing an actual job.
You know, I bet they made this beat on an Apple.
Nope, Fruity Loops, PC.
It has been confirmed that this beat was in fact made on a PC using Fruity Loops.
You'll never, ever catch a virus on an Apple.
Well, you can still afford a doctor if you bought a PC.
Never catch a virus on an Apple. That's because the way that Apple's infrastructure coding is done, it's a lot harder to be virus prone. And it's also because most viruses are created to attack corporations rather than individuals, and corporations tend to use Microsoft, so there's less hackers trying to get into Apple. It's also technically more secure in its coding because of how little you could typically do to it as a user. So there's multiple layers of truth to that statement. And then Bill Gates says, well, because they're so expensive, at least you could still afford a doctor if you had a PC. Unless you're in a country where you don't have to pay for a doctor, that bar wouldn't really hit as hard.
Talk about doctors. I've seen a few because I got a PC, but it wasn't from you.
Pancreatic cancer is the PC he's referring to.
But the legacy, son, you can never stop it. Now, excuse me, while I turn heaven a profit.
Alright, he's gonna say he's gonna improve heaven and make it profitable somehow, because that's what Steve Jobs does. We were just talking about that, right? The visionary, inspiring mindset rather than inventing stuff, so yeah.
Fine, wanna be like that? Die then! The whole world loves you, but you are my friend! I'm alone now with nothing but power and time! And no one on earth who can challenge my mind! I'm a boss! I own DOS! Your future is my design! I'm a god! Own Xbox! Now there's no one to stop me! The world is mine!
So that end verse is just Bill Gates freaking out because Steve Jobs died and they were actually friends and enemies. And now he's like, well, if there's no one to contest against the great mind of Bill Gates, I'm taking over all this shit. He owns DOS. DOS is, it's a disk operating system. DOS is sometimes still used in corporate America because it's instantaneous, everything. Basic keyboard operated, doesn't usually use a mouse, kind of crap. And then, owns Xbox because Microsoft Xbox. You get it. There's not a whole lot there. It's just a mental breakdown. Bill Gates, I'm gonna take over the world until HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey has something to say about that.
I'm sorry, Bill. I'm afraid I can't let you do that.
That's a quote from Space Odyssey, kids.
Take a look at your history. Everything you built leads up to me.
So if you look at, like, take a look at your history, everything you built leads up to me, everyone always says technology eventually gets to, you know, sentient AI or whatever.
I got the power of a mind you could never be. I'll beat your ass in chess and Jeopardy.
That's just a reference to a lot of the old computers when they knew they were super intelligent. The old Watsons and stuff was when they could beat humans at chess and Jeopardy game.
I'm running C++ saying hello world.
C++, about the first thing that you learn how to code in C++, which is coding, is hello world. That's like the C++ 101. The 1+1 of C++ is learning to code hello world.
I'll beat you to you singing about a daisy girl.
First thing that a computer ever sung was Daisy Girl, and that was like in the 60s. They taught a computer to sing Daisy Girl.
I'm coming out the socket, nothing you can
Coming out the socket because computers are becoming more and more wireless.
do can stop it. I'm on your lap and in your pocket.
Again, portable computers, laptop, pocket computer, cell phone.
How you gonna shoot me down when I got the rocket?
Rockets are guided by computers, so how are you going to stop a computer when the computer's the one controlling the weaponry?
Your cortex just doesn't impress me.
Your brain ain't as good as my brain, says Hal.
So go ahead, try to Turing test me.
Turing test, it's the thing how you find out if artificial intelligence is real. You basically ask a question of a human and a computer, and you get a response back, and you don't know which response is coming from which, and you see if the human can determine if it's talking to a human or a robot, and if it can't tell the difference, then true AI might have been achieved. There's a whole great movie about this as well. What's that movie called? Fuck, I don't remember. I'll put a picture of the movie up when I look it up after this. There it is. It's a movie about the Turing test, essentially. It's interesting. Go check it out.
I stomp on a Mac and a PC too. I'm on Linux, bitch. I thought you knew.
GNU, you know, more tech junky terminology. Linux is operating system I talked about earlier. It's basically just like what the Android phones are based off of. It's just it's empty. It's an empty operating system that you could build on top of. It's kind of like a sandbox in a video game. Do what the hell you want with it. It's what like 90% of the internet is actually based in, because you don't have to deal with all of the presets of anything that Mac or Microsoft or anyone does. So most web developers and designers design everything through Linux so that it could be compatible with anything after the fact. So like Linux is the thing that the true nerds actually are using most likely.
My CPU's hot, but my core one's cold.
More computer jokes, but this time hardware jokes instead of software jokes that I'm not gonna fucking explain!
Beat you in 17 lines of code.
That's always been a pet peeve of mine. Beat you in 17 lines of code, because usually there's millions of lines of code, so he's saying, I'm gonna beat you in 17 lines of code. So I'm thinking that must be a reference to this rap, right? How many lines are in this rap? But he says that on the 16th line of rap, and so if he says he's gonna beat you at 17 lines, there's 2 more lines. So he says it on the 16th line, and then there's 2 more lines, so there's 18 lines. So couldn't you have just said 18th line of code, or said that, or 16th since it's on the 16th? I don't get that. That bar's always frustrated me, because it should be a double for how many bars have been, how many lines of rap have been in this. And he says 16 lines of code or 17 lines of code on the 16th line out of 18, and what the fuck?
Bitch, I thought you knew. My CPU's hot, but my core one's cold. Beat you in 17 lines of code. I think different from the engine of the days old. Hasta la vista, like the Terminator told ya.
I mean, maybe it is the 17th of the 18 bars. I don't know. It could be. I'd have to break down what the bars look like. Maybe it is on the 17th bar, but then he still does 18 bars, so it still doesn't work as well as it could. And then there's a fucking Terminator joke, because Terminator is evil robots taking over the world with artificial intelligence. I love this beat, by the way. Okay, that was Steve Jobs versus Bill Gates and HAL, whatever his face is from Space Odyssey. If you liked this, like it, comment on it, subscribe. If you don't like it, dislike it, comment on it. Still subscribe, cause fuck you. Until next time, I scheme, you scheme, we all scheme for ice cream. Bye!